we often have like certain pictures in our minds when we think about autism, right? Like maybe we think of certain ways people act, but what about the people who don't really fit that image? What are those struggles we don't see? And that's what we're going to be diving into today. We've got this article. Get this. It's titled "Masking Means You're Not Struggling: Debunking a Common Myth."
Yeah, and it's a myth that really trips a lot of people up, and honestly, it can be really damaging to folks who are living it.
Okay, so let's break down this whole high masking thing. So the article it defines it as this conscious effort, like you're really trying to conceal your autistic traits,
Yeah.
just to try to fit in socially, right?
Exactly. It's kind of like wearing a social camouflage.
Okay, so you're saying it's not just about like being quote unquote good at blending in. It's a deliberate thing.
Absolutely. Think of it like this. You're maybe at a networking event and you're just feeling completely overwhelmed, right, by all the noise, the lights, the people, and really all you want to do is just like retreat. But instead, you have to put on your work face, right, and engage in all the small talk, even though it's like draining every ounce of energy you have.
Yeah. Or imagine like having to plan out
Yeah.
like every single word of a conversation in advance,
Yeah.
almost like you're following like a script in your head just to feel prepared.
That's a great example. And while this, masking can be a useful tool for some autistic individuals, to get by in a world that's not really designed for them. We can't ignore what it takes to do that, behind the scenes.
Yeah, because it's not like you can just flip a switch, right? I mean, this is like constant effort
Yeah.
to control and suppress these natural behaviors. It's got to have some kind of impact.
Yeah.
And the article calls it an invisible struggle.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're acting in a play all day, every day.
Yeah, and just like an actor needs time to unwind after a performance, someone who is constantly masking, they need time to recharge and be their, authentic selves, except imagine feeling like you can never actually drop the act.
Oh, wow. That that must be so isolating. And the article talks about how, this can lead to a lot of anxiety, even a sense of like losing yourself,
Yeah.
in the process
Yeah.
because you're so busy trying to be what everyone else expects instead of who you really are.
And what's so fascinating about this is it's not even just about, mimicking neurotypical behavior. It's constantly like anticipating and trying to prevent any negative reaction. It's like you're walking on eggshells all the time,
Yeah.
just terrified of saying or doing the quote unquote wrong thing.
So it's like social anxiety, but like on steroids then. Because on top of like dealing with all the normal social situations, which is hard enough as it is, you've got this whole other layer of fear and pressure.
Yeah, yeah, and it's no wonder then that the article links, high masking to a way higher risk of just burning out. And we're not just talking about like your average I need a vacation type of burnout either, right? This is like deep exhaustion emotionally, mentally, just from the constant effort of maintaining this social facade.
Yeah, it's like your brain is like running a marathon with the straitjacket on. Eventually something's got to give. And here's the thing that really got me. Just because someone can mask, just because they, quote unquote seem high functioning, doesn't mean that they're not facing like real challenges,
Yeah.
real struggles because of their autism. And
Yeah.
it's not even just about like feeling burnt out, is it? That the article goes on to say that like this chronic masking thing, it can really increase your risk of some serious mental health stuff, like actual anxiety disorders,
Yeah.
depression. Like that's heavy stuff.
Yeah, it makes sense though when you think about it, right? If you're having to just constantly suppress your true self, like you're denying yourself that freedom to be who you are, it's bound to have some kind of impact on you. Imagine just like never being able to let your guard down, like always on edge, just worried about being, found out.
Yeah. The article actually it gave this really powerful example. They described someone at like a work event, right? And on the surface they're fitting in fine, that they're pretending to enjoy all the small talk, but like inside all they want to do is disappear. All they can think about is getting to like a quiet corner where they can finally take off that mask and
Yeah.
and just be.
Yeah. Yeah, and that internal struggle, that's what we're talking about when we say social anxiety, right?
Mhm.
And it's important to understand this isn't just, feeling a little shy or a little awkward. This is like deep down fear of being, rejected or ostracized or even punished just for being different. And for someone who's, high masking, that fear is like amplified because they've spent years and years and years, maybe even their whole lives, learning how to suppress those parts of themselves that maybe aren't seen as acceptable.
Oh, wow. So you're saying it's almost like a self-preservation kind of thing, right? Like you mask to try to protect yourself from getting hurt.
Exactly. And over time, that constant vigilance, that fear of being quote unquote found out, it takes a toll,
Yeah.
it's exhausting. It can make even like simple, everyday social interaction. It's like walking through a minefield.
Yeah, yeah. And I imagine that can like lead to other challenges too, right?
Mm.
Like the article talked about like identity conflicts,
Yeah.
like trying to like reconcile this mask that you're wearing with your true self, your autistic self. And it seems like that could really like mess with your sense of who you even are.
Oh, absolutely. It's really complex because if you are always, performing, always adapting to what you think other people, want you to be, it can be hard to even know like who are you? Like
Yep.
who are you without that mask? It's like that saying, you are what you do repeatedly, right? And so if
Yeah.
you're constantly masking it, it becomes part of who you are, even if it doesn't really feel, like it's really you.
Yeah, and that feeling of like disconnect, like not knowing who you are or where you belong, that's got to be like incredibly isolating.
It is. It really is. And it's one of the biggest reasons why it's so important that we talk about this stuff, these invisible struggles, because if we only focus on the, outward behavior, if we only see the mask, then we're missing like this huge part of the picture. We're missing their internal world, the actual experiences of autistic people who are often struggling in silence.
Yeah, and the article it drew this really interesting parallel to this idea of code switching. That thing where people from marginalized groups often feel like they have to like adjust their behavior or even
Mhm.
or even like the way they talk just to try to fit in different places. And it's like you're constantly having to like shift between these different versions of yourself, and you never really feel like you can just be your full self.
Yeah, and just like code switching, high masking, it takes work,
Right.
it takes effort. It takes like constant vigilance and over time that can lead to, burnout,
Yeah.
exhaustion, and even mental health challenges.
Which kind of brings us back to the article's like central point, empathy, not erasure.
Yeah.
Like we can't just assume that someone is fine just because they're good at blending in.
Right. It's about recognizing that what you see on the outside, it doesn't always tell the whole story. Just because someone doesn't, look like they're struggling doesn't mean that they're not. We need to look beyond just the surface,
Yeah.
and listen with empathy and try to create those spaces where people feel safe to be who they really are. No more masks.
Because ultimately, isn't that what we all want? To be accepted and valued for who we are,
Yeah.
you know? Not for who we're pretending to be.
That's it, isn't it? Creating that space where we can all just be ourselves, without feeling like we have to like fit in this perfect box.
For sure.
Yeah.
But easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
How do we actually do that? Like how do we make it so people don't feel like they have to mask in the first place?
Well, I think, it has to start with awareness, right? Like really understanding the weight of what we're asking of people when we want them to just hide who they are all the time,
Mhm.
and recognizing that something that might seem like a small thing to one person, like just a little quirk, it could be a really big deal for someone else. It could be a huge source of like anxiety.
Yeah, so it's about like us changing our viewpoint, right? Instead of like expecting other people to just change to fit the situation.
Exactly. It's about like looking around and saying, okay, how can we make this environment better, more inclusive, like more open to different ways of just existing, really. And that might mean, different things in different places, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so like let's say you're at work, right? Like what can you do there
Mhm.
to make that environment more supportive? especially for people who might be, high masking.
Well, I think one thing is we can get rid of this idea that there's like one right way to communicate, right? Or to interact with each other. Like maybe someone prefers to write things down, instead of having a whole meeting about it. Or maybe someone, they just need a little bit more time to think before they before they respond, right? And these are such simple things, but they can make such a big difference for someone who feels like they always have to be on, you know?
Yeah, yeah, to be performing.
Exactly. And it's bigger than just, the practical stuff too, right? Like how we do things. It's about building that sense of empathy,
Hmm.
of understanding, and creating an environment where people feel like they can ask for what they need, and not feel ashamed or scared that people are gonna judge them.
Right. So it's about like shifting the whole culture, right?
Yeah.
So that being different isn't something that's like just tolerated, but actually like valued.
Beautifully put. It's realizing that neurodiversity, just like, any kind of diversity, it makes us stronger in the end, more creative.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So as we're kind of wrapping things up here, what's like the one thing you really want to leave people with? What's that one thought?
Well, I guess I would say this. The next time you meet someone new, just remember that you're only seeing like this tiny part of who they are. They might be like dealing with all this stuff you don't know about, putting in so much effort just to be there in that moment. So meet them with compassion, not judgment. You never know what someone else is going through.
Wow. Yeah, that's a powerful thought. And on that note, we'll leave you all to ponder that today. Thanks
Yeah.
for joining us on this deep dive into the world of high masking autism. And until next time, keep asking those questions, keep learning, and keep diving deeper.